pour a cup of coffee. Today we're going to touch base about the student forum for the school board election. Joining me today are Courtney and Kelly, and they're going to provide you the updates from the school board election season.
Hi, Meredith. Thank you so much for allowing us to talk about this very important topic. So yes, it is school board election season, and we're really excited that the ballots will be dropping on October 10th, and you have till November 4th to vote.
And how are we supposed to be handing them back in?
Great question, Courtney. Thanks for asking that. It is a mail-in ballot, so everybody will receive a ballot at their home if you are a registered voter in Douglas County, and then you can drop it off. They have different drop boxes throughout the county. You can mail it in, or you can go in person on November 4th.
Now, is it too late to register?
It is not too late to register. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and you can register. You can even register the same day of. So if you went in person, you can go ahead and register that day and vote.
What did you think of the forum the other night? I was pretty impressed. Legacy put on a pretty good show.
The student group, and they do an amazing job every campaign season. So they did. We were able to have all 8 candidates or representatives for those candidates there. The students generated the questions and the follow-up questions. We were able to sit in the audience and listen. It was good. You could really see a difference in the 2 slates running. There's 4 running for each slate. And if you watch it on YouTube, you get a pretty clear understanding the differences between them.
Now, those that are listening that may not be well-versed, what do you mean by slate?
Running for school board is actually very expensive. It is cheaper to run as a team. So a slate would be like a team. Those are people that agree fundamentally on the direction of education and policy, and so they tend to collaborate together. Now, they're all individuals, and they all have different backgrounds of what they bring to the table as a potential school board director, but they feel like they're in alignment, so they're working together.
I loved how every student was the main person driving these conversations, and then one student did have a little bit of comic relief.
He did. That was funny. So the format, since you can't see it right now, is they would have a certain amount of time to answer the question. As they were getting close to the end of their time, a yellow card would come up, and then when a red card came up, they were supposed to stop speaking. Sometimes they wouldn't be looking at the card, and they would keep going, and then there was a student, as Courtney mentioned, who would go, "Stop talking," in a very creepy whisper. But it was funny.
We needed a little bit of comic relief because our candidates are very passionate this year. This was my first forum, so I don't want to speak on previous years. But they did take their time and they used it to the best of their abilities, making every moment count.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, the students, I thought, asked great questions. I think you can really get an overall understanding of where each candidate stands and what they'll bring to the school board director position.
Now, what sets this election apart from last year's election?
There are 7 school board directors on the school board. Last go-around, which was 2 years ago, in 2023, we had 3 seats that were up. That was still considered a board minority election because it wasn't really going to change the vote. This year, we have 4 seats up.
That's a pretty big amount.
If one slate takes all of those seats, that's going to be a very powerful voting bloc. Not that they will all necessarily vote in alignment, but they could. So much is at stake because board directors set the direction of the district, right? They write policy. They write what are called end statements to see if those policies worked. They have one employee, and that is the superintendent of schools. They hold the superintendent accountable to what they say they're going to do. So it's actually a really important position that sometimes is overlooked. It is a volunteer position, which is a little bit crazy, right? It's a lot of hours, a lot of time. Running for these positions, at least where we live, does take a lot of money and effort, all for a volunteer position. So you know that the people that run are very passionate.
What was one of your biggest takeaways from the forum event?
I would say there are 4 that are on a slate that personally, only speaking as myself, I am supporting, that support funding for education. And they will most likely be asking for more funding in the future for education. I think that is really important. Most school districts in the Denver metro area will put on what's called a mill levy override, or an MLO, and bonds every 3 years, because MLOs, they go for things like teacher salaries. Bonds go for what we call brick and mortar, so the buildings, the HVAC, keeping the toilets working. It's not sexy stuff, but it's really necessary. They also go if we need to build new schools, which we're going to build 3 in the next 2 years. Those sorts of things should be happening all the time. Unfortunately, in our district, we went 12 years without passing one, which means the kids that were seniors in high school hadn't passed one since they were in kindergarten. You can imagine that made us go pretty far behind in teacher pay, in upkeep on buildings. I don't want that to happen again. We were less marketable for teachers to come because other school districts paid more. The candidates that I'm supporting, which is the community choice slate, said they will support more funding, and that's what I'm looking for as a parent.
To circle back, when we were talking about the slates, we are voting individually for the person, or how is that working?
That's confusing. Thank you for asking that. There are different districts, and to run for a seat, you have to live in that district. If you lived in District B, you would run for B, and there will be somebody else on the other slate also running for B. But as a voter, we vote for all of the seats. So it's called an at-large election. So you don't have to only vote for the one who represents your area. You can vote for all of them.
I love that. So living in Parker, I can still vote for someone that is running in Castle Rock.
Absolutely. So what it is, it will go down by the seats. There'll be 2 candidates for each seat, and you're going to vote one or the other. Now, I am on the organization Douglas County Parents. Our website is douglascountyparents.com. If you want more information, you can go on our website. You can learn more about them. If you want to educate yourselves, also watch the YouTube videos. There's lots of ways to get more information on who to vote for that you think really represents what you're looking for in a school board director.
You can find information about the other candidates at commonsensedcsd.com. We will be providing all the information that we talked about in our show notes today, so be sure to check those out so you can get the correct links. If you want to learn more information about DCCAC, you're welcome to follow us on all our social media, as well as follow us on this podcast, as we have several other conversations in the woodworks. We're super excited. Thank you, everyone, and until next time.